The Galactic Council chamber echoed with laughter. Dozens of alien species filled the grand hall, their voices mixing into a chaotic wave of amusement. The center of attention was a massive holographic display. Earth, a small blue planet spinning peacefully in the darkness of space. The Zervath Dominion's ambassador, a tall, scaled creature with 4 glowing eyes, stood at the podium, grinning. "These primitives," he sneered, gesturing toward the image. "They have no fleets, no significant military, and no allies. A single battle cruiser could wipe them from existence." More laughter erupted. A representative of the Xylari, a species of insectoid beings, clicked his mandibles. Why even bother sending a battle cruiser? Drop a few bombs and be done with it. "They call themselves humans." Another voice chimed in, this one from a reptilian species. "They send diplomats, begging for peace, as if that means anything. Do they truly believe words can protect them?" The laughter continued, but at the back of the chamber, one figure remained silent. Grand Strategist Ralvik, a high-ranking officer of the Zervath military, watched the display carefully. He had studied the history of many civilizations. The weak begged for mercy, yes, but something about humanity felt different. Their history was filled with conflict, with wars that lasted for generations. They fought among themselves with terrifying efficiency, and yet now, when faced with the might of the galaxy, they remained eerily silent. No threats, no desperate countermeasures. Nothing. It was almost unsettling. Emperor Vorkath of the Zervath Dominion rose from his seat, silencing the room. His golden robes shimmered under the bright lights. "Enough talk," he declared. "Humanity has refused our demands. They have not paid tribute, nor have they submitted to our rule. They are an insult to the Dominion." A hush fell over the chamber. The decision had been made. "We will send our fleet to their homeworld," the Emperor continued, his voice cold. "Let them witness the full power of the Zervath Dominion. Earth will fall, and the survivors will be made slaves." The aliens nodded in approval. The decision was final. Humanity was weak, and the weak had no place in the galaxy. The Zervath war machine would crush them. Within hours, the invasion fleet was mobilized. 10,000 warships, each one larger than the entire human navy combined, gathered at the edge of Zervath space. Their engines roared as they jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading straight for the solar system. On Earth, governments around the world watched in horror. Telescopes and deep space scanners detected the incoming fleet. The Zervath had not even attempted diplomacy. They had simply declared war, assuming humanity would surrender without a fight. Panic spread. News channels broadcasted images of the massive alien armada. Billions of people feared the worst. Leaders held emergency meetings, discussing evacuation plans, last-ditch defenses, anything that could delay the inevitable. But deep beneath the surface of Earth, in hidden bunkers and classified military installations, there was no fear. No panic. Only quiet determination. Inside a heavily secured facility, a group of high-ranking officials gathered around a holographic table. General Nathan Cole, a hardened veteran, leaned forward, studying the data. The enemy fleet was vast, overwhelming in size and firepower. Against such numbers, no ordinary species could survive. But humanity had never been ordinary. Cole turned to a scientist, an older woman with sharp eyes. "Is the system ready?" She nodded. "Ready and waiting." A slow smile formed on Cole's face. The galaxy had made a mistake. They assumed Earth was weak because it lacked visible power. But Earth's true strength had never been in its numbers. It had been in its ability to adapt, to outthink, to strike when least expected. The enemy fleet was approaching fast, expecting an easy victory, but they had no idea what awaited them. Far beyond Earth, at the edge of the solar system, something activated. Silent, invisible, waiting. The Zervath ships surged forward, confident in their impending conquest. But before they could even reach Earth, the first of their warships simply disappeared. One moment, it was there. The next, it was gone, as if swallowed by the void. On the Zervath command ship, alarms blared. Confusion spread. No weapons had been fired. No enemy ships had been detected. Yet their vessels were vanishing one by one. Panic set in. The fleet's admiral, a towering brute named Carvox, slammed his fist against the control panel. "Report. What's happening?" A frantic officer shouted. We don't know. Something is taking our ships." More vessels vanished, one after another. They were erased from existence. Then, for the first time, Earth spoke. A transmission broadcasted across the entire fleet. A single, calm voice. "You shouldn't have come." And then the Zervath learned why no one had ever truly seen Earth's power. Because humanity had been waiting. And now, the trap had been sprung. Then, for the first time, Earth spoke. A transmission broadcasted across the entire fleet. A single, calm voice. "You shouldn't have come." And then the Zervath learned why no one had ever truly seen Earth's power. Because humanity had been waiting. And now, the trap had been sprung. The Zervath fleet had never known fear. Conquering primitive worlds was routine, a process that had been perfected over centuries. They would arrive, establish dominance, and crush any resistance before the enemy even had a chance to react. It was supposed to be the same with Earth, but something was wrong. Admiral Carvox stood at the command deck of the Zervath flagship, his 4 eyes scanning the chaotic readouts before him. Half a dozen warships had already vanished without a trace. No explosions, no energy signatures, just silence, as if the ships had never existed in the first place. "Recalibrate sensors," he barked. "Find the source of the attack." The bridge crews scrambled to obey, but the results were the same. There was nothing. No enemy ships. No signs of movement. Just the vast emptiness of space. Then another ship vanished. And another. Panic spread through the fleet. Captains shouted over comm channels, demanding answers. Some ships attempted to retreat, but even those were erased from existence before they could escape. It was as if space itself had turned against them. Carvox clenched his mandibles in frustration. The enemy was using some kind of advanced stealth weapon. But how? Humanity wasn't supposed to have this kind of technology. The Galactic Council had dismissed Earth as insignificant. The Zervath had seen no fleets, no planetary defenses worth mentioning. And yet, the evidence was undeniable. They were losing. A deep voice echoed through the bridge. The same voice that had sent the eerie warning moments ago. "You shouldn't have come." The message repeated across every Zervath warship, filling their comms with an icy finality. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact. Carvox slammed his fist onto the console. "All ships, prepare for a full bombardment. Fire everything we have at their homeworld." If they couldn't identify the enemy, they would simply annihilate Earth itself. Orders were relayed, weapons systems primed, and thousands of Zervath warships locked onto their target. Planetary destruction protocols were activated, massive energy projectors charged to unleash devastation, unlike anything humanity had ever faced. And then, nothing. The power systems of the Zervath fleet flickered. Red warning lights bathed every bridge in a hellish glow. Weapons refused to fire. Engines went dead. The fleet was left adrift, helpless. Carvox's heart pounded. "What is this?" "Sir," an officer stammered, his voice trembling. Something is shutting us down. It's not a weapon. It's something else." The view screen flickered to life, revealing an image that sent a shudder through every Zervath officer. Earth, still spinning peacefully in the darkness of space, but something had changed. Around the planet, like a wall of shadows, a fleet was emerging. Not hundreds, not thousands, hundreds of thousands. Massive warships, their hulls gleaming in the reflected light of Earth's sun, activated one by one. They had been hidden, masked by technology far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. And now, they were here. Carvox staggered back, his mind unable to process the scale of what he was witnessing. "Impossible," he whispered. A message blinked onto his console, a direct transmission from Earth's fleet. No threats, no demands. Just 2 words. "Your turn." And then the Zervath fleet began to burn. Admiral Carvox had never known fear. Not like this. His entire career had been built on conquest, on crushing weak civilizations before they even realized they were doomed. He had never considered the possibility of being on the losing side. And yet here he was. The Zervath fleet, once the pride of the Dominion, now hung motionless in space, helpless and exposed. Powerless warships drifted like dying embers, their once mighty weapon systems useless. Meanwhile, Earth's hidden fleet, 500,000 strong, had revealed itself, their engines humming with barely contained fury. The comms were filled with panicked voices from his officers. "Admiral, we have no propulsion. We're defenseless. We need to retreat." But there was nowhere to run. A single ship broke formation from Earth's fleet, gliding through the darkness like a predator. Its design was unlike anything Carvox had ever seen, sleek, angular, and impossibly advanced. It moved with a terrifying grace, untouched by the chaos surrounding it. Then, a voice filled the Zervath fleet's comm channels. Calm. Cold. "Zervath Dominion, you have made a mistake." Carvox clenched his fists. "I am Admiral Carvox of the Zervath. You are nothing." The words cut deeper than any weapon. Carvox felt his mandibles tighten, rage boiling beneath his skin. The Zervath Dominion had ruled for centuries. They had broken countless species, reduced entire civilizations to dust. And yet, these humans spoke to him as if he was the one beneath them. "Your arrogance has doomed you," the voice continued. "You came here believing Earth was weak, that we would bow before you like the others. You saw no fleet, no defenses. And so you laughed." The Zervath officers remained silent. Even Carvox found himself unable to respond. "But we were never weak," the voice said. "We were waiting." The ship in front of them shifted, its hull glowing with an eerie blue light. And then, in a flash, it moved. No warning, no build-up. One moment, it was in front of them. The next, it was among them. And then the slaughter began. The Earth ship fired a single shot. A beam of pure energy lanced through space, piercing through a Zervath battlecruiser like it was made of paper. The massive vessel split in half, its core detonating in a violent explosion. Another shot. Another ship destroyed. Then another. And another. Panic spread like wildfire. Zervath officers screamed over the comms, desperately trying to restore power, to fight back. But it was useless. Their fleet was being torn apart. Carvox stared in horror. This isn't possible." His second-in-command turned to him, eyes filled with desperation. "Admiral, we must surrender." Surrender. The word had never once been spoken in the history of the Zervath Dominion. To surrender was to accept weakness. To surrender was to admit defeat. But for the first time in his life, Carvox realized the truth. They had already lost. Another explosion rocked his ship, sending sparks flying across the command deck. The Earth ship was still moving, still killing, its movements too fast, too precise. It was toying with them. A final message came through the comms. "This is your only warning. Leave now, or we will erase you." Carvox swallowed hard. There was no pride left in him, no defiance. Only terror. With a shaking hand, he activated the emergency retreat protocol. The Zervath fleet, what little remained of it, began to withdraw, their damaged ships limping back into the void. They had come to conquer. But instead, they had been humbled. As the Zervath ships jumped away, Carvox cast one final look at Earth. The blue planet remained untouched, its people never even seeing the battle above them. And above it, 500,000 warships stood watch, waiting. The retreating Zervath fleet vanished into the darkness of space, their broken warships limping away from Earth's orbit. A strange silence hung in the air, as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. The destruction they had witnessed was beyond anything any of them had imagined possible. 500,000 warships, each more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen, had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. They had struck with precision, with such devastating power, that the once feared Zervith fleet had been shattered in mere moments. Admiral Carvox's ship limped through the void, its hull cracked and smoldering. He stood at the command deck, watching the stars through the viewscreen. The flickering light from the dying stars did little to calm the dread that had taken root in his chest. The Earth had shown them something terrifying. "We were wrong," he muttered, barely above a whisper. His voice held a tremor, an admission of defeat that no leader of the Zervith had ever uttered. They were never weak. We underestimated them. In the command room behind him, his officers exchanged nervous glances. Even the most hardened among them could not shake the image of that lone Earth ship slicing through their fleet like a blade through paper. They had fought wars. They had conquered worlds. But they had never faced anything like this. "They're still out there," one officer said, his voice cracking. "We're running, but they'll follow us. We'll never escape." Carvox's eyes hardened, but there was no denying the fear in his heart. Earth had sent a message to the entire galaxy. They had warned the Zervath that their arrogance would be their downfall. And they were right. The Zervath fleet was broken, and the galaxy had learned a lesson that no one had expected. Earth, once considered weak and insignificant, had proven that even the smallest and most overlooked species could change the course of the stars. Far below, the people of Earth remained blissfully unaware of the battle that had unfolded above their heads. In the capital cities, life went on as usual. People went to work, children played in the streets, and the world seemed as peaceful as it had always been. But something had changed. A silent shift in the balance of power had occurred, one that would ripple across the galaxy. At the heart of it all was one question: why had humanity waited so long to reveal their true strength? In the depths of Earth's classified military bunkers, General Nathan Cole stood before a vast holographic display, his eyes scanning the galaxy. The war with the Zervath had been won, but that victory had only served to highlight a greater truth. Humanity's strength was not just in the ships they had built or the technology they had developed. It was in their ability to outthink, to adapt, and to strike when the galaxy least expected it. The voice of his second-in-command broke the silence. "General, the fleet is requesting a direct order." "What now?" Cole's eyes never left the display. "Now, we wait." He turned to face the officer, a grim determination in his gaze. "Earth has just made a statement to the galaxy. We've shown them that we will not be dominated, but we've also shown them that we can be more than just a force of war. We have the power to change the course of the future, and we will use it." The officer nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the words. Earth had not just fought for survival. They had declared their place in the galaxy. They had made a statement. No longer would they be underestimated. No longer would they be the weaklings. In the weeks that followed, the aftermath of the Zervath defeat rippled through the galaxy like a shockwave. The Galactic Council, once so confident in their dominance, now found themselves questioning their assumptions. If Earth, a planet they had dismissed as insignificant, could field a fleet of such unimaginable power, what else were they capable of? The threat of war with the Zervath had been avoided, at least for now. But the question remained: would Earth continue to build its strength in secret? Or would they make their presence known, bringing an end to the old order of the galaxy? One thing was certain: the galaxy would never again see Earth as weak. They had learned their lesson, and the consequences of that lesson would be felt for generations to come. The stars themselves had witnessed humanity's wrath, and no one would ever forget what had happened when Earth chose to fight back. General Cole stood alone in the command center, his eyes locked on the holographic map of the galaxy. The future stretched out before him, unknown, but filled with infinite possibilities. The war was over, But the real story of humanity's place among the stars was just beginning. You said. The galaxy was still reeling from the shock of Earth's unexpected power. It had only been a few weeks since the Zervath fleet had retreated, broken and humiliated, but already the whispers were spreading across the stars. The Council was nervous. The high-ranking officials who had once mocked Earth's defenses, who had seen humanity as nothing more than a minor nuisance in the grand scheme of galactic politics, were now scrambling to reassess their strategies. On Earth, life had returned to normal. People went about their daily routines, unaware that their world had just changed the course of galactic history. But behind the scenes, the leaders of Earth's military and government were preparing for a new kind of future, a future where humanity would no longer be a passive participant in the galaxy's conflicts, but a force that commanded respect. General Nathan Cole stood before a holographic map in his war room, studying the vast expanse of the galaxy. His mind was already racing through the next steps. The defeat of the Zervath had proven that humanity was capable of defending itself, but that victory was only the beginning. There were other empires, other races out there in the galaxy, all of whom would now be watching Earth with cautious eyes. General, a voice called from behind him. It was his second-in-command, Colonel Nia Brooks, her face grim as she approached. We've intercepted a communication. From the Galactic Council. Cole turned, his expression unreadable. The Galactic Council had already reached out to Earth once before the battle with the Zervath, but it had been a diplomatic request, a demand for Earth to submit to their authority. That had been weeks ago, when the Council still believed Earth was too insignificant to challenge their power. "I'll take it," Cole said, his voice cold. Maya stepped forward and activated the transmission, her hand steady despite the tension in the air. The holographic screen flickered to life, revealing a figure, a representative of the Galactic Council. The figure wore the familiar robes of a high-ranking official, though his face was tense, his posture rigid. "General Cole," the figure said, his voice tight with restrained authority. "I represent the Galactic Council. We require a formal explanation for the recent events surrounding the Zervath fleet." Cole's eyes narrowed. The message was not a request. It was a demand, an assertion of control. "You've seen the results of the battle," Cole replied evenly, his voice sharp. "What more explanation do you need?" The council representative's eyes flickered with something close to frustration. "We demand to know how Earth managed to conceal such a powerful fleet. No species in the galaxy, except those with access to hyper-advanced technology, could possess such a force. We need to understand your intentions." "Understand?" Cole's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "You don't need to understand anything. The galaxy has made its mistake, and now you're asking for a second one." The representative bristled at the words, but he said nothing. There was a long pause before he spoke again, his tone colder. "General Cole, you must understand the implications of your actions. Earth's sudden display of military power has thrown the balance of the galaxy into chaos. If this continues, there will be consequences." "I'm sure there will be," Cole responded smoothly. "But understand this. Earth will never be dominated again. Not by the Zervath, not by you, and not by anyone else." His voice grew more intense. "We've seen what the galaxy has to offer. We've seen the empires that think they can trample on us, and we've learned something important." The representative's eyes narrowed, sensing the threat. "And what is that?" "That Earth doesn't need to fear anyone," Cole said, his voice steady and resolute. "The galaxy is changing, and the old order is coming to an end. You can either adapt or be swept aside. But know this. The next time someone tries to threaten Earth, we won't just defend ourselves. We will make them regret it." For a moment, the representative said nothing. His expression was one of barely contained anger, his fists clenching at his sides. But then, after a long pause, he spoke again, his voice colder than before. "You will regret this, General Cole," he said, his words thick with menace. "The Council does not take threats lightly. You may have won this time, but there will be consequences for your insolence. We'll be ready, Cole said, his tone unwavering. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have work to do. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the room in a heavy silence. Cole turned to Maya, his face unreadable. We'll need to increase our readiness, he said, his voice low but firm. The Council won't let this go, but we'll be ready for whatever they throw at us. Maya nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The defeat of the Zervath had shown the galaxy that Earth was not to be underestimated, but it had also sent a message to the Galactic Council: Earth would no longer submit. The balance of power had shifted, and humanity was no longer just a participant in galactic politics. They were now a force to be reckoned with. The stars themselves had witnessed the fury of Earth's defense, and now they would have to reckon with humanity's growing strength. As the galaxy watched with bated breath, General Cole stood resolute, ready for whatever came next. The fight for Earth's place among the stars had only just begun. The days that followed were tense, with the weight of the Galactic Council's threat hanging over Earth's every decision. General Nathan Cole had made it clear. The galaxy would no longer look at Earth as a weak, insignificant planet. But that statement had come at a cost. The Council's anger simmered, and the silence between the stars felt charged with anticipation. The galaxy, once bustling with the arrogance of its dominant empires, now watched Earth with a new sense of trepidation. Earth's military forces had been rapidly expanding since the Zervath defeat. Research facilities were working around the clock to enhance human technology, and the newly formed alliances between Earth's most powerful nations were becoming ever more solidified. But the most significant change was the collective attitude of humanity. No longer did they cower at the thought of galactic war. Instead, they stood ready to face it head-on. The stars above, once distant and cold, now felt within reach. The once feared empires, who had mocked humanity as primitive and backward, had learned a hard lesson. Now it was their turn to fear. General Cole was in the heart of Earth's military command center when the next transmission came through. His hands rested on the surface of the holographic display as he stared at the screen, waiting for the inevitable. The transmission was a direct line from the Galactic Council, and it wasn't an invitation for peace. The hologram flickered to life, revealing the same representative from the Council, his face twisted with frustration and barely contained anger. General Cole, the representative began, his tone colder than it had been before. You have proven your strength. We were wrong to underestimate Earth, and for that, we offer our apologies. However, this is not the end. The Council is prepared to take action. Cole stood tall, unshaken by the threats. He had expected this. Earth had made its mark on the galaxy, and the Council was too proud to simply accept it. But that didn't matter. Earth had nothing to fear anymore. What kind of action? He asked, his voice steady. The representative's eyes narrowed. We have already sent a message to the Zervath. They will not be the last to feel the consequences of their defeat. The Council is calling for a galactic summit to address the rise of humanity. Your methods are unconventional. We cannot allow your species to destabilize the balance. Destabilize, Cole repeated, a slight smile tugging at the corner of his lips. You want to talk about destabilization. The galaxy has been stable for millennia under the Council's rule, yet it took you this long to recognize the power Earth wields. Now that you know we are a force, you're threatened by it. The representative's face flushed. Do not mistake our words for fear, General. The galaxy has its rules. The Council enforces them, and we will not allow Earth to defy that order without consequences. Cole's eyes hardened. Then prepare for consequences of your own. Earth is not a pawn in your game anymore. We have the strength to stand alone, and we will not be intimidated by your threats. The representative clenched his fists. Do not think we will back down from this. We will show you the true power of the galaxy's united forces. Cole leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. Bring them. All of them. Earth will meet your challenge head-on. But remember this. You will never again look at humanity as you did before. The galaxy will soon understand that when you push us, we push back harder." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the room in silence. The words hung in the air, thick with the promise of war, but also of something more. Earth had made its stand. There was no turning back now. Behind him, the command center hummed with activity. Officers, technicians, and strategists were already at work, preparing for whatever the Council would send next. General Cole's resolve had only grown stronger. The time for negotiation had passed. The galaxy would learn that humanity was not to be underestimated. On Earth's surface, the mood was the same. Ordinary citizens, who had once feared the unknown reach of the galaxy, now felt a sense of pride. Earth was no longer the little planet on the edge of the galaxy. They were a force, and that force was about to reshape the future of the stars. As preparations for the upcoming Galactic Summit began, General Cole sat in his office, alone with his thoughts. The stars had always been a symbol of the unknown, a realm of limitless possibilities. Now that vastness would belong to humanity as well. They would not be passive witnesses in this galactic drama. They would be the protagonists. But the question remained, would the galaxy accept humanity's newfound power, or would they wage war to crush it? The stars had seen Earth's strength once already. Soon, they would see it again. The real fight was only just beginning, and this time, Earth was prepared to make its stand. As Cole stood up and walked to the window, gazing at the horizon, he knew one thing for certain. Earth's place in the galaxy was no longer in question. The balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy would never be the same again.